Hey there, and welcome to episode number 9 of season 2 of the World of Presentations podcast brought to you by us at 356 Labs. Today, we're talking to a very special guest and someone who I actually spent quite some time in the university with. Mario Peshev is with us, and I invited him because not only we have spent so much time there, but even back then when we were like, what, 18, 19,
Around that,
20,
yeah.
around that time, you're already doing quite some speaking, quite some trainings, a lot of trainings, even in other countries. And that, to be honest, made quite a lot of impression on me. So, Mario, welcome to the podcast. And please tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hey, Bobby, thanks for having me. It's a great pleasure. And trust me, I do respect your work over the past few years. It's absolutely amazing. And not just the past few years, actually, probably the past decade. It's quite interesting, though. Like our styles are fairly different. You know, you're trying to build a mentality and trying to build the work model of presenting as I don't know, like an influencer speaker, or just like trying to imprint a specific train of thought. And my background in presentations is actually quite more technical. You know, you can probably
Yep.
compare it to the university style, old school presenting type of, hey guys, we are going to speak for whatever for the next 8 hours. So
Yep.
buckle up, and it's going to be a very long day ahead of time.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, back in the day, right now I do run a couple of companies. One of them is DevriX. We're a team of 50 people, and according to different sources, we are one of the top 20 WordPress agencies across the world. And we do profile in building, high scale applications on top of WordPress, including for enterprises and automotive companies and fast funded startups, and also high scale projects up to about 900 million pages per month. So it's definitely
Yeah.
quite exciting what we do here. But my background in tech also started with teaching technical courses, which is something that you
Yep.
also brought up. And yeah, when we were, I was actually curious if you're going to bring up the university thing, but since it's already out there, back when we were studying together, I actually failed the class in Java, I think, or at least one of the semesters, because I was
Really?
teaching Java in CERN, in
Oh,
Switzerland,
really?
political leader for pretty much high profile project. And I got back home, and I failed the test because I didn't show up because I was actually teaching Java back at the time. So it's definitely fun times. Lots of things have changed since. You became a great presenter, and not just a great presenter, but a great trainer, and built a wonderful portfolio at 356 Labs. So it's great to be here. Thanks for the invite.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So I was like, when I get back to the university years, it was so much fun back then. Like you can
Mhm.
see so many unusual things that were happening, like someone failing on a course when he himself is delivering a course, and it's not even delivering this course for students but for some of the biggest organizations in the world. On and on. Anyhow, like we have a lot of fun stories with some of our lecturers.
Oh yeah.
That is, I believe everyone has those. But anyhow, like you guys did some crazy things in regards to DevriX. I actually recently saw a photo of you and Stanko, who is your co-founder or partner, and I didn't realize that you guys started this during the university years. Like,
Mhm.
what happened here? Like, how did that company end up being so successful for what, 8, 10, like, what is it, 8, 9 years?
Uh, let's say 10 years. We're
Okay,
actually
10
starting
years.
the 11th one, but yeah, we just started early. And
Yeah,
we're
and
getting old, man. We're getting old. We're no
that
longer
is
in university soon.
that one I agree with for sure, and I can feel it, by the way. Even
Uh,
though that I don't want to kind of say it out loud. Okay.
Come on, I see the stories at 6 a.m. You're working out. Come on, you're not old.
That's not big. That's because I don't want to feel old. That's the reason why.
I
So
love it.
so how did you, like, give us like a behind the scenes, like how did that happen with DevRix, and maybe if you can incorporate the part where you can say whether or not presenting or presentations in first place had or played some role, like bring us behind the scenes of that a company here being quoted in Forbes and you being quoted in Forbes like numerous times, constantly, more or less. So what happened there?
Sure. So I started out as a geek back, well, for as long as I remember, to be honest. I was fortunate enough to have a computer at the age of probably 6 at home, which wasn't
Yeah.
quite a thing, in our area. And I spent most of my memorable days and nights just hacking around this PC and trying to figure out how the operating system works and deleting files by mistakes and then crying out loud for many days until someone comes up and kind of sorts it out. So I spent years in that context and managed to connect with other geeks in my community, other folks who were also trying to think in the same manner. So this is how I discovered programming. The
Okay.
first thing I believe I did was QBasic, probably at the age of 8. So I was, writing some apps on QBasic, mostly, solving formulas for school and that kind of boring stuff because I didn't want to remember them because I was lazy. One of the most important traits for being a developer.
Yeah.
The age of
Even up
9,
until today.
yeah, the age of 9, I actually built my first website for Pokemon, which is completely adorable. It was a Pokédex for all Pokemons out there. I still remember the website I studied from, and it's still out there. It's davesite.com website, HTML or something like that. So yeah, I mean, I started very early. I was just fortunate to stumble upon other people and spend numerous days and nights just tinkering with computers. So
Yep.
I was already ahead of the game at some point, up until we met at the university, right? Probably a couple years before university, I joined a software company which also dabbled with training technical courses. This wasn't quite popular back then. It was probably the first academy for teaching courses. I actually took a course there. I got top scores and was invited to be an assistant trainer, and things started from there.
Yeah.
So, in a nutshell, teaching was something I was really passionate about, something I truly enjoyed. Again, the context was really different. We're not talking about a 30-minute
Yeah.
presentation or a
Yeah. These are
1 hour
40
keynote
hours
talk. Yeah, 4 hours. Some of them were pretty much 8-hour presentations, right? So it's pretty
per day, though.
massive.
Per
Yeah,
day.
yeah, correct.
Yeah.
So it's a very different context, but I really enjoyed it. I just enjoyed teaching, and I spent quite a lot of time dealing with this. So DevriX, probably the fun thing is maybe DevriX exists first and foremost as an entity for me to invoice companies ordering corporate trainings. So speaking of
Really? Is that
presentations,
the case?
yeah. The first time I actually went to CERN, I had to go through a friend's company because they are one of the largest
Yep.
non-profits out there or so, and I was at the age of 18, so it was a little bit rough for me to kind of make it work. But
Yeah.
I had to use a friend's company, and he said, we're going to do it this time, but like you should seriously consider just making it a thing, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, if you take it this way, presenting is probably the first reason the company exists, anyways.
By the way, I remember that moment when you went there in CERN, and that was like what you were teaching Oracle databases or something. Like, what was there?
Yeah,
What
I
was
believe
happening?
it was POSQL,
Yeah.
Oracle database, and some other SQL magic for Java applications. And they
Yeah.
were actually using that for the collider itself. And when I found out what sort of, it's not even machines, it's like server farms gathering data from the Hadron Collider, like it was 12 years ago or so, and kind of the micro machines connected to that had something like, I don't know, 128 terabytes of RAM operating this information real time.
Insane stuff.
It was incredible. I just thought, if I give the wrong advice here because I literally don't know that much, I
It's
may as
over.
well, yeah, I may as well just nuke half of the continent. That's what's going to
Yeah,
happen.
it's over. More or less, it's over. By the way, many people don't like the companies that we work with don't really understand that, because at some point I also became quite into the technical trainings part, but with the SQL Server stuff.
Mm.
And many people that are coming from the business world nowadays, when we talk about trainings with them, they're like, how is it possible for somebody to deliver a training that's like 4 hours, 8 hours? I'm like, in the technical world, people deliver normally 40. Like, or even more. I'm like,
Yeah.
why are you so worried about this? I mean, it is a skill, of course. It is for sure. It's not easy. Let's just put it there. But it is possible. It just takes a lot of work for sure, a lot of preparation, and a lot of skill from the trainer, and that's like a mandatory. Okay, so
Honestly,
yeah, go ahead.
I do respect you a lot more for being able to do, like Ignite talks or just short to the point
Yeah,
presentations, because I find them so hard to deliver, right? Every
yeah,
time I have a 30-minute presentation, it's usually a 2-hour presentation squashed into something that I try to deliver in no time, and it
yeah,
gets a pretty messy. So yeah,
yeah.
I mean, like for me, it's easier to do the long form, and some people just can't imagine it. So it's
Yeah, it's
their own.
interesting because a lot of people and everyone will tell you that, hey, if you don't have the time, like if you have 10 minutes, it's way harder than 20, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
I remember the case, I probably, those guys at 7sec.
yeah.
They were, yeah, so they had a case where they had a 10-minute presentation and they reached out to us for help because they told them that they have to deliver this presentation now for 5 minutes. And
Yeah.
they were like, oh my God, like we are not able to cut on anything. And I really like this quote by everybody who is out there speaking. Everything is so important. There is no way for us to remove anything. I'm
uh,
like, relax. We'll try to optimize it without losing the message. Don't worry about it. And then
Lovely.
we did. And 2 days later or something, what was his name? Was it Puaman? I don't know. Anyway, so
Can't go.
yeah, he called me and said, these German guys changed the rules again. It's now 3 minutes. And I'm like, oh, okay. Okay, now that is aggressive, yeah. For sure, the shorter ones are obviously harder. That's for me too. So presentations are obviously the reason why, or trainings, let's put it this way, but trainings are more or less presentations if you think about them, started DevriX. And from there, you have how many people on your team now?
We have about 50 people now, give or take. It's not a shabby studio. We're getting there. Our business model
Okay.
is pretty different than what most other companies do.
Okay.
Our like over the past 5 years, we've been settling as the company that invented WordPress
Yeah.
retainers as a recurring business model for just making things happen.
Okay.
This has been truly revolutionary for us because the industry itself isn't really working this way. Most projects out there are one-offs, right? And most people just come up and say, we have an RFP. You need to go through 40 pages of some stuff and just give us a fixed quote, which is pretty dumb. I'm actually hating
Yeah.
it regularly on my blog. I have various blog posts just
I
discussing
know.
that stuff, and yeah, sending them over to people because that's not really the way to do stuff. And
Yeah.
retainers are the way to do stuff. Agile development is the future and has been the future for the past 20 plus years. This is how
Okay.
things work. Web, in general, the industry itself is evolving so much more. New frameworks, new versions, new servers. Cloudflare announcing some stuff, and like everything is moving so quickly. It's just not a one-off project anymore, unless you need a
Yeah.
portfolio for something or a pet project.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's how we started, and that's kind of what we did to make it happen. And also presentations are also one of the things we do to convey this message to prospects, to speak at conferences, and also discuss why retainers are so important, to prepare
Yeah.
leaflets and kind of other decks for LinkedIn as well, because LinkedIn documents are the thing and presentations are
Yeah. A lot
wonderful
of
there.
reach there, I think.
A
Like
lot
they
of reach.
can reach a lot of people, I think now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're
But those
absolutely.
are the vertical ones you mean?
Yep.
Okay,
It's
got
still a
it.
presentation, like
Yeah. So
we
what are
just
like if you yeah, so if you have to think about it in terms of and from the point of the owner of the company who made a company with 2 people, now 50, like what are the types of presentations that you guys needed and you continue to need more or less on a daily basis, let's say, to make that happen? Like what are the ones if
lots
you
of lots of different presentations, to be honest. So again, we do have slide decks for client pitches, right? We need
okay,
scope of work for the company or like our pricing plans or that kind of stuff. We do
okay,
have workshops that we organize at the office. We just had one yesterday, and we obviously need to convey a lot of information for our team in a way that's really well
yeah,
structured so that everyone knows what they're talking about. Sometimes we need to do reviews for a website, for example, or preparing for an RFP, which we hate. but it's really better to prepare it in a visual form, in a well-structured
Yeah.
manner, with stats, with charts, with. I mean, it sounds like a cliche, but sometimes it's better to visualize that to a broader group
Yeah.
of people. We do have different PR events, or let's say WordCamp Bulgaria was organized just this past weekend. So I gave a talk there for about 30 minutes on something. So yeah, I mean, different reasons. Sometimes it's sales, sometimes it's internal training, sometimes it's culture, sometimes it's PR, sometimes it's other reasons. I definitely do believe that presentations are extremely important in the, how should I put it? Not really the corporate world, but rather the digital universe that we live in nowadays.
Yeah, they say that like there was recently, or I don't know whether or not it was recently, but maybe 2 or 3 years ago, Harvard did the research that even up until today, I don't think that something changed in the last 2 years in that regard.
Mhm.
Presentations are the second most used communication tool in the world,
Sweet.
after email, of course. I mean, obviously. So yeah, I don't know whether or not something changed because of these Slacks and Teams and stuff like that, or Zooms, but it really also depends on how you define presentation. I believe in that research. But anyhow, they are being used for sure. So
Mhm.
you did the WordCamp and the session there, but you already don't remember what happened there, or you don't remember
I
the
know
session
it
because
was
you
a nice
there were
talk.
so many.
It was a nice talk. I just don't remember the what I was talking about. I had, it's the event season. In my defense, it's October and November. You know what's going on.
Crazy.
You have an event every single weekend, and now with virtual events, it's like twice a week. So they just pile it up. I had
Yeah.
like probably 7 different events this month alone, maybe more. So they're
Yeah.
just stacking up quickly. But at least I'm
Yeah.
really happy about the virtual format. It's
Okay.
it's getting a bit rough, like way too many conferences. But some of them used to be on site. Some of them
Okay.
used to be in, let's say, North America, and now
Yeah.
they're virtual. So sometimes you just get a chance to attend an event you otherwise wouldn't be able to. So
Yeah. Oh, by the way, I don't know for you, but I'm super happy that I don't have to go to the US to speak. Like,
I know, right?
I mean, it's super nice. It's
Uh,
super nice. So you do a lot of presentations, like in the company for external, internal purposes. Any like favorite tool? What are you guys using? Google? Are you using Google Slides?
Yes, I'm guilty of that. I love Google Slides.
Yeah.
My designers are trying to convert me to Figma for months, and I'm like, guys, I mean, I'm just a business person, or
Yeah.
so I don't want to deal with Figma stuff. I'm going to
Yep.
share that with other people, and like that's kind of how it's going to happen. But yeah,
Yeah.
Google Slides my favorite. Um,
Yeah.
I really
Doing
like.
the work, doing the job.
I'm
All good.
very happy. Some other things, such as just search an image. You can directly search into Google's database. It directly
Yeah.
replaces it. It stretches it and kind of does most of the things we do. I can just copy paste slides on the way, even on my phone. I've actually last year I had to give a pitch for an internship training program, right?
Okay.
So we were one of the high schools we sponsor, the one I graduated at. There were probably 30 companies applying for 100 interns, something like that. It was
Okay.
insane. Companies applying for interns, which are, I mean, it's insane. But again, the level of the high school is really high anyway. So
Yeah.
um, I gathered that everyone has 5 minutes to just pitch some ideas for projects you can work on during the internship. And I said, well, 5 minutes, you have like, 6 people, one after the other within a 30-minute slot. There's no time for presentation. Nobody's going to bring a
Yeah.
presentation. So I was assigned to the second panel, not the first one, luckily like 40 minutes in or so. And I came in first and I just sat down and I realized that everyone had a presentation prepared. I was like,
All
oh
right.
God, I'm screwed. So
Uh,
what I did is just I opened slides on my phone. Um, I grabbed a note presentation. I left, the header slide
yeah.
and the footer, like ask me questions and stuff. So I already had 5 or 6 slides ready, copied over 3 other slides, just typed in some text, and it ended up being a presentation at the end. I also just
Yeah.
published the URL to Bitly so that it's an easy URL I can
Yeah.
fire up on the laptop, and I was good to go in like 10 minutes. So I
Yeah.
just love Google Slides.
Google Slides saved the day there.
Save the day. Yeah.
Yeah.
What's your what?
Do you use the collaboration features a lot internally
Um,
or no?
y- sometimes it's
Okay.
mostly assigning some stuff to assistants or
Yeah.
marketing or designers or so, but like most of that is there. And again, designs are usually Figma or Adobe XD or that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
But
the popular ones. Yeah,
yeah,
I say especially the Sigma stuff. This became popular, I think, recently. Like it was not that popular, like a year ago or
it
maybe.
wasn't. It wasn't. Yeah, most people were doing XD, I believe. Then
Yeah,
I don't know, Illustrator or something else,
yeah,
or
yeah,
and
yeah.
Photoshop back in the day.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
Well, that's interesting that you guys are based on the Google the slides, but at the end of the day, it's a tool. So if it works for you, it works for you, and that's it. I mean, I personally s- every single time I say to everybody, hey, these are just tools.
Yeah.
Don't forget that. Like, don't get crazy. Just because you use Apple doesn't mean that you don't have to use let's say PowerPoint or Google Slides. Like, oh no, it's Keynote. I'm like, Keynote doesn't work for collaboration. You
Yeah.
know that? Like if you don't have an iCloud account, you cannot collaborate. So how are you going to collaborate with us two here? Let's say,
Yeah.
right? So it's just a tool. Don't forget that. But Google, like Slides, is just the collaboration feature, and the versioning is
Yeah, versioning
it's
is extremely important. I just forgot about that. Yeah, versioning is
yeah,
just
it is mad. I mean, it is
commenting too. Sometimes I
yes,
get someone to just prepare the template or add some stats over there, and
yes,
I'm like,
yeah,
yeah, this is crazy. It's
yeah, yeah.
unbelievable.
Yeah, that is absolutely. So you said that you're also doing a lot of, obviously everyone is doing a lot of, wait a minute, virtual events. So how are those going for you? Like, what do you think about virtual events, virtual presentations? Like, how are they different? Do you like them more? Do you like, what is your 2 cents here?
Well, so it's really interesting because I saw numerous formats of virtual events, and that makes me that much more excited.
Okay.
Now, for instance, I had a talk for Software University. So me and the other trainer went there in an empty room, just recording all of that and streaming virtually. So in
Yep.
some formats, you still gather, the speakers and the organizers, you still gather on site, but the audience is not there. So it's an
Yeah.
interesting idea, especially if they have better gear and that kind
Yeah.
of stuff. So that's one way to organize it. We've had other events where we pre-recorded videos and they were bundled into a larger format, with
Yeah.
workshops, with panels, with this, with that, which was also great, and it was very excited. There was another event. I actually didn't speak at this one, but we were kind of negotiating a sponsorship. They have those virtual booths for sponsors,
Yeah.
and they do have, like, after the event, you actually get 10 scheduled calls with participants who attend the event and a bunch of other things so that you can actually meet with those people even after the event. So they do all that.
Yeah.
They have some form of monetization program to make it happen, like rewarding, like a kickback for people to just
Okay.
be
Yeah.
willing to do
Valid.
that.
Why not?
So in that sense, I'm super excited because lots of innovative formats have been established with virtual events. So that's definitely a good thing. Of course,
Yeah.
I'm missing the real life touch, and it's very different. You don't get that number of questions, or like some people are just playing the conference while they're cooking or doing something else. So it's
Yeah.
like just running on the background is, I feel like, TV at times. So that's kind of
Yeah. Yeah.
and the other aspect is just it's great to have virtual events, but if they pile up and you just have a virtual event every other day, it gets a little bit too much. What's your
Yeah.
take on that? What do you think about virtual
I
events?
mean, virtual, like they are so different for so many reasons. So,
Mm,
for example, you said sponsors. We are organizing the conference ourselves for April next year.
mm,
And when you talk about sponsors, it's like so interesting to tell them, hey, you have zero idea how much data we can capture
yeah,
for potentially, of course, with the permission of the user, right? They will click on a specific checkbox where it kind of says, hey, we allow that for our profile, etc. But the level of the amount, just the sheer amount of data that you capture in regards to the behavior of every attendee, in regards to to sessions, sponsored booths, like everything is just madness. I mean,
yeah,
this is not possible in an in-person event. Like it
mm,
is not possible to get that data for the sponsors is just not possible. Not
mm,
to mention that if people just if they also allow to capture their emails, it's now
yeah,
intense. I mean, for
mm,
a sponsor that is leads in a scale that's just ungodly amount of potential leads there. So for the sponsors, I believe it's a very interesting thing. The only thing that I'm kind of worried about for the virtual events is that in regards to who runs the events and the moderators, etc., don't push enough and don't have a plan. How are they going to bring the attendees to the sponsor booths?
Yeah.
And a lot of sponsors are very unhappy with that.
Yeah.
Obviously, like that is very easy to guess. Yeah, but otherwise for the speaking and all of the other things, I think they just represented a completely different way of like the speakers themselves. Still, to me, is shocking that we just saw Brand Minds in Romania, right? Very big event, obviously, with some serious technical glitch at the first day. Very sad story there. Obviously, they communicated it very well, but still, that doesn't change a thing that they obviously haven't stress tested their platform, right? Or haven't done it well or good enough. But for us as the presenters, it's very different, right? You can probably see it and sense it, right? And it is strange that even the most experienced speakers still present in the same way when they do it virtually as they are on stage, and yet it's a different format.
Yeah. I actually had to start. I actually had to start kind of the virtual thing before COVID happened, simply because I was teaching in some high schools that had some events happening outside of school hours, meaning like Saturday classes or so. And instead of just asking everyone to go there, we had monthly classes just via Zoom or maybe something else, whatever. So that's when I first realized how awkward it is, because you had like 25 students or 30 or 40 or maybe sometimes up to 100 just being there muted, connected, no camera, no anything, and you're just presenting live, right? It's not even Instagram live or LinkedIn live, right? It's not even just getting reactions and comments. It's just everyone seeing the room, they're there, but they're muted and cameras off. And it just gets strange. Sometimes someone drops off, just to connectivity issues, or someone maybe listening on the way and losing coverage. And you're like, oh my God, did they do something? I lost them. It's not like having them in the same room, they're not going to leave. Or if they leave, you're probably really not having a great time, or they really have a wonderful reason to do that.
Or if they leave, you can say, hey, where are you going?
Come on, dude. Like, for real? Like, what's up? And yeah, I mean, it's definitely different in that sense, but also the lack of feedback is something that that's hard to acquire nowadays, especially, like I said, especially with people just doing that on the side. Sometimes I'm just driving on the highway for like 3 hours and I'm playing something while I'm driving. It doesn't mean I'm paying quite a lot of attention. I can ask questions or anything else, and it's kind of a mix that's making presenting harder. But since you mentioned Brand Minds, it is actually something that it's an event I wanted to go to in person, because I wanted to see.
I was there twice. Twice. The previous years. This year it was not possible.
Exactly. That's why I was surprised. But I really wanted to see Gary Vee, right? Also Michael Gladwell, and just wanted to see them in person, right? Because like now with the virtual event, it's like it's like I can't see Gary Vee online. He's like living online. He almost has Gary TV. He already has a daily V and a bunch of other things. So that's the other thing. Sometimes you go to an event, you literally just see the person and feel the energy. And now with virtual, it doesn't always work out this well. So that's another challenge that we're having. And also, like, some people that are just showing up at tons of conferences, like myself included, actually, like 7 events in a month or 8 or so. It's like sometimes it just gets too much, right? Because it's a virtual event anyways. There's a video anyway. There's streaming anyway. It's a different life we are living in right now. That's what I'm feeling.
Yeah, that's for sure. But when you say that there is lack of like the feedback part, right? You cannot scan the room, you cannot feel the room, right? Especially when everybody is muted, plus their cameras are off. It's just very annoying. Not annoying, but it's kind of very strange experience, right? Especially for our brain is like, it's so unusual. We don't have the kind of the skilled it's just, and we are also pessimistic creatures, right? We work this way. We are like, something's wrong, something. By default we are pessimistic, right? So we are like, something's wrong here, like nobody's saying anything. They may be enjoying it to the fullest, right?
But you wouldn't
you are
know
not.
that. But you wouldn't
Yeah,
know
you
that.
cannot know that. By the way, is also one of the reasons why, for example, you see that even in Brand Minds this year, I don't know if you joined the stream, but one of the guys that presented, what he did was very clever, and we also work with a lot of our customers to tell them, hey, you don't know what's happening during this session. Like, you have to plan, and we have to plan. And this guy did it very well. On every fifth or sixth minute, he stopped to interact in one way or the other, right? Asking somebody to type in something in the chat, unmuting somebody from the audience, putting a poll so that people can vote, doing crazy things just to make sure that everyone stays engaged, has a reason to stay engaged, on and on and on. And this is still not happening whatsoever in the corporate world. Like, they're just presenting 30 minutes straight. They're like, well, how did it go? Well, I don't know. I mean, nobody said anything. Well, you didn't ask them anything. That's why maybe that happened.
I feel
Okay,
like,
so yeah, go
like
ahead.
the idea of polls. Not every streaming feature has polls, and that's something that I really love and I really think is more or less mandatory. Whenever I'm on a kind of virtual panel room or whatever it is, whenever there's a poll feature, it just works out so much better, right?
Yeah.
You get people who may be intimidated to text in and like everyone seeing their name and their message, right? But with polls, it's so much more interactive. It's kind of one of the best features every single streaming software should incorporate, like as a quick toggle.
Yeah, absolutely. And if not, like, there are so many other great platforms out there for that stuff. So there are a lot of things that you can incorporate, like Slido, Mentimeters, like all of those, Poll Everywhere, all of those guys. Okay, so like, if you like, it is what, more than 10 years that you are presenting now. So
15.
15, okay. Yeah, more than 10, obviously. So let's go 15. More than 15. Okay, let's start from more than 15. 15 plus. 15 plus. So you have done a lot of presentations by yourself. You have seen a lot of presentations, right? A lot. So if you kind of have to say, hey, these are the top 2 or 3 mistakes that I see, obviously with our dog making some noise here. So if you have to say, hey, like, these are the top 2 or top 3 mistakes that I see the other people do, or I personally think for myself, I kind of realized I have done in the past, what would you say those are? Like, anything?
Yeah, that's a great question. I actually, maybe 6 or 7 years ago, I actually organized workshops for beginner trainers. I worked with one of the large training academies in Bulgaria, and we just did the workshop, but they were more interactive. Like, everyone's presenting for again 5 minutes, and we're giving feedback and collectively and that kind of stuff. I would say that at large, especially in the corporate and the events world, I do think ego is definitely the main thing that's playing an crucial role against most presenters out there, especially.
Elaborate. That is interesting.
Because again, like, teaching is, or presenting or whatever, is not, of course, like, first and foremost, I'm going to actually take it a step back, right? Fear of public speaking is, I think, the largest phobia or so out there. So that's definitely a thing. But I think what it boils down to is fear of speaking comes from the fear of you embarrassing yourself. And it's all about the ego, right? Or it's all about the fact that you think you're better than others, or it's all about the fact that you think you need to present as someone who is better than others, right? So I think it's really easy to get out of your comfort zone in either believing you're better than others and just being, having the Dunning-Kruger syndrome, or feeling that you need to be the teacher or someone else who has to kind of dictate how things happen. And I think this, by large, is probably the biggest problem in the community. If you find your way, if you find first and foremost, understanding the audience, and that's kind of the second problem that I'm going to mention, but understanding the audience, preparing the right talk, and setting the right narrative so that you prepare people ahead of time what you're going to speak about. And you don't necessarily try to be the guru talking about this, or trying to give the type of advice that this is what you should follow. I'm the Messiah. I'm going to teach you how to follow me for 40 years in the desert or whatever. Yeah. So again, I mean, to kind of sum it up, like, if you try to just be whoever you're not, it's really going to fail miserably most of the time, unless you're a very experienced speaker who can get out of every situation. And again, most people just believe they need to be the top trainers or the gurus or something else, and like they're supposed to be that. That's where imposter syndrome is coming, and that's where everything goes out, right?
Yeah. Okay.
And yeah, again, my philosophy is, just being honest, just being, being able to dictate what you believe is your philosophy of things and how you interpret things and how you dictate things. It's generally a lot better, unless you're delivering a technical presentation where you have to be very punctual. The second thing is understanding the audience. I've had lots of people, and I especially hate that. I go to a conference, I see a talk that
Yeah.
sounds extremely interesting, and then I
Okay.
figure out it's a talk that's definitely aiming towards a completely different audience, which is not supposed to show up at this event, right? Like, for
Okay.
example, you go to a technical conference, someone
Yeah.
is supposed to be talking about something technical, but they're actually aiming at marketers or designers or something like
Yeah.
that. Like
Click
completely.
here, click there. It's
Yeah,
all
yeah,
working.
yeah, exactly. That kind of stuff. I would say that those are probably the two main things that really stand out. Being
Okay.
unable to control your time is also something that I find really annoying, especially with
Okay.
people just going way out of line with like 20
And
minutes.
especially at
Other.
conferences, I think. Like when you
Yes,
say conferences,
yes.
yeah.
So I
Okay.
had again. I'm going to give an example from the talk this past Saturday. It's actually a friend, someone I actually respect. He's just too passionate and nobody stops him. But like, there's a, I don't know, 25, 30 minutes talk or so, maybe 5 minutes for questions. He spoke for about 50 minutes, which ate up a lot of time from other speakers and stuff. And then additionally, they aired him during the break, the lunch break,
Okay.
unannounced. People didn't know that, so that he can do live Q&A, right? Again, I do love the guy. He's a knowledgeable person and know that, but it's just so messed up, like someone took 15 minutes extra, which is like 50% extra time,
Yeah.
and then you air them for another hour for a Q&A for one specific topic he's uncovering, right? It's just that things don't really work out very well this way, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, I would say that those are probably the main things I would, that really bug me at events. The rest is really, I don't know, it's presentation skills, but it's also
Okay.
mostly about attitude and mostly about how you perceive training, right? Some people are funny, some people are more insightful and inspirational, some people are really more storytelling driven, some are more
Yeah.
punctual and data driven, some are slower, some are. It's most about, are you being engaging or not, but it's also a skill that you train, and your skills should adapt to a specific audience. That's at
Yeah.
least
Yeah.
my take on things.
Yeah. And this one, when you say know your audience, that is a big one, right? I mean, if you don't nail that one, everything can go south afterwards. Like no
Oh yeah.
matter, yeah, like that is the critical part. And I don't know what you're seeing, but what we're seeing is just everyone kind of creates their presentation like 2 minutes before the talk itself, and they're like afterwards, well, I don't know, maybe it could have been better,
Yeah.
like, especially for important presentations, there is just so much work that you can do on the audience to understand who they are or who you're targeting, so that you can kind of create a message, a story that resonates with them, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
it's even, by the way, in the technical field, I think things haven't moved like at all, more or less. I know that world from 10, 11 years,
Hmm.
it's still the same. Like
Yeah.
especially on the visual part, it is very much the same.
It
Like
is.
it
Yeah.
is the visual part is just plain and simple bad. Let's be honest. I mean, especially at the tech events or that type of events, no, like it is. So it is considered as an exception to the rule, something like a miracle if somebody goes with well designed, not mesmerizingly good design, right? Just well-designed slides that support this person's message. And I'm not speaking about anything ambitious here. Just
Yeah.
yeah, it's just considered incredible. I have been stopped at events by people who I don't know, asking me, "Did you see this guy's presentation?" I'm like, "Yeah." Why? How is it possible for this organization to have the most beautiful presentation out there? And I'm like, what's the problem with that? Why are you making so much noise about it? Like,
uh,
people
but
care about their brand and are willing to spend the time and potentially, I don't know, resources to present their brand in the way they want it to be presented. Like, why are you making such a big deal out of it? Shouldn't it be, while we're spending 300 euros on a ticket event, everyone to present this way, right? I mean, I
Yeah.
don't know, like it's just strange. Anyway, so
Crazy.
yeah, it is the tech world is the tech and the business, by the way, the business world, the business events are also the same, I think. Okay, so in regards to conferences, like what is your status on the conferences right now? Like do you ever do you get asked to submit conference sessions anymore, or is just invites?
Yeah, I
Because
mean,
submitting is a very interesting part. Like how do you write the title, how do you write the abstract, but do you ever do that anymore?
yeah. So first and foremost, I do have a toddler at home, so traveling is a bit trickier nowadays. So I'm
Okay, yeah,
not letting myself travel that much more anymore, at least
yeah,
for the time being. Even though, yeah, every now and then I do. So I don't submit that much. I've probably done, I don't know, maybe two over the past 2 years. Most of them are honestly invites of some
yeah,
sorts or events that you still need to submit, but I'm mostly like, okay, what sort of topic you need, and we're just going to make it happen, right? But yeah, I've done that, and I had one event that, yeah. Okay, fine. So I had a virtual event. I actually submitted three different titles to, and they didn't get picked, and it was weird because I didn't quite feel that the other speakers were like coming with a better background or so, or even better diversity or whatever
yeah,
you want to call it. But yeah,
yeah,
submitted three titles and got kind of boilerplate rejection letter too. So yeah, it happens every now and
yeah.
then. It's crazy.
Yeah,
What do
people, by the
you?
way, yeah, by the way, people don't understand that when, like, as you said, like, especially people in the tech world that are going to listen to this, that when you're submitting for a session, it doesn't really, sometimes it doesn't really matter who you, okay, with some extremes, right? It doesn't really matter who you are because there is just a lot of politics behind the scenes that dictates who
Yeah.
gets accepted and why. Like, I always say to people, hey, if you get rejected, so what? I mean, come on, you probably will never understand and know what exactly the reason was, even if you ask, because there are just so many things that can happen behind the scenes.
Politics is definitely real, and there
Yeah, yeah,
are. You and I have both organized conferences as well. I've also organized conferences as part of the WordPress community, which is
yeah,
WordCamps and whatnot, including WordCamp Europe's twice
yeah,
in Bulgaria and Spain and some other places. There's
yeah,
a lots of things coming from, let's say, the WordPress Foundation, which is non-profit around the entire
exactly.
world. Global sponsors just paying the global company. You have to comply with them. You don't have to do specific things or invite some
Yeah,
other specific things, or you have certain licenses you have to comply. So companies using products using specific licenses are not fine. So
yeah,
politics is definitely real. Or sometimes
it
just the
is.
organizer doesn't like you because they find you whatever they find you,
Yeah,
or what is worth. So
yeah, but think about also maybe like if you get invited or if you invite somebody who is kind of considered a rock star, if you want, like in one way or the other. Like these people sometimes, by the way, I have a fun story, but it's so much NDA I cannot even think of sharing it, but we'll see.
okay.
But yeah, but think about when you invite somebody who is a rock star who, let's say, has to travel back in that world from, let's say, the US, and the event is here in, let's say, Ljubljana, I don't know, in
Yeah,
Slovenia or in
Slovenia.
Sofia even. They will come with the request of, if they're coming, they'll immediately tell you, I'm either delivering a masterclass plus a session or two
Yeah,
sessions at least, right?
that's
Right?
correct.
That is just normal, right?
Yeah,
That's why you see the same name twice at least at a conference. It's not because there were no submissions, not enough submissions. It's just because for me that's kind of politics again, right?
yeah,
And that's why your slot got taken or my slot got taken because of that person that comes from the US and kind of said, hey, if I will come, right, but I will have to deliver too, right?
yeah.
Otherwise, because they're kind of consultants and they bring business from those sessions also. So it's just a lot of things.
Yeah, and again, I've been in the speaker selection process myself multiple times. I've done
Yeah,
mistakes myself that I'm not really proud of, not as in politics kind of stuff, but
yeah,
like,
yeah,
for example, I've given chances to people with a great talk and great just ambition and message, and
yeah,
say, well, we need some beginners, and he's experienced, and then he messes up everything. For example, I've done that, not
yeah,
proud of it, but like sometimes you really don't know, right? and sometimes there are technical glitches too. So that kind of stuff definitely happens.
Yeah.
For one of the WordCamps in Bulgaria, maybe I don't know 8 years ago or so, when we organized, I was heavily leaning toward more foreign speakers, and I know that some of the
Okay.
Bulgarian speakers were disqualified, but I was like, look, Bulgaria is small. Not, I mean, there are technical events like Bulgarian Web Summit and this and that, and like a bunch of different events in the country, right?
Yeah.
So I said, Bulgarian speakers can go and speak to other events, and you can meet them, and there are meetups and groups and stuff. So we just brought over lots of people from, again, the States, from the UK and whatnot, to bring fresh perspectives, to let
Yeah.
people meet those folks in person, right? So it was kind of a political choice per se, and some people were not happy about it. Like they said, well, why
Yeah.
should all how the sessions be in English, right? I don't approve that. It's a Bulgarian event or anything. Whenever you gather 500 people supposedly attending a
Yeah.
conference, you're going to have 300 of them ranting about various things. So
Something. Yeah, for sure.
yeah, just
Like when you said that, I remember France. I was speaking in Paris like a few years ago, and French people, like, I
but
mean,
yeah.
they don't
Oh,
speak
we.
English. They're, yeah. We are like, these guys have very specific respect. Like, I have a lot of friends there, but it's super cool to see that when there is like two sessions running in parallel at an event, one is in English, the other one is in French. The other one may be the most how can I say it? Basic,
Yeah.
not to say
But it's
stupid
French.
session, yeah, but it's in French, and your room is empty. It's empty. Like, I got one time in Paris, I got 3 people in the room. I was
Terrible,
like,
yeah.
out of 300, 3. When we talk about the latest and greatest things that were just in beta, and back then in BooPros, we have already deployed them in production, and I was going to show, like, what?
Yeah.
And the organizer was like, don't worry, it's not you. It's just the guys
just
that
the
are here.
country.
Like, it is so. And then he said, you do know that we also have French terminology, right? For the IT stuff, right?
Yeah.
I'm like, what do you mean? He was like, we don't use the English words for the terms and the terminology. And yet, like, I'm like, you're kidding. That's not possible. He was like, no, it is.
It is a thing. Yeah, it's crazy.
Anyhow,
Crazy.
so Mario, one last question here. Again, a lot of events, a lot of in-person, a lot of virtuals, a lot of events that you organized. We're organizing an event like in April. So if you have to kind of go back in time and say, hey, in order for an event to be considered as the top event, right? In order for an event, for you to say, hey, this event was insane, what would that one thing be that would differentiate an event, in your opinion?
Just sorry for the off topic, but it is a virtual event, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm
It
not
will be
going to.
hard to be insane, right? I mean,
Yeah,
having
I
in
mean,
mind.
I'm not going to mention food then. So there's that.
Yes. Yeah. Food won't work.
Yeah, food is definitely a thing. But yeah, I would say it's maybe not one thing, but speakers are definitely making things happen.
Yeah.
And even, and again, it's also related to politics to some extent, but even when you're organizing an event, you have a call for papers process, you still have 2 or 3 people in mind that are probably going to be invited or probably already agreed to speak. So
Yeah.
you know that you're going to expand from that initial set of speakers. So
Yeah.
having top speakers as best as possible is definitely a thing, and also having an organized schedule that makes sense according to the target audience. The
Yeah.
best events that I've been to or helped co-organize or so, we do know what's the topic of the conference, we do know what are the branches of different things we want to cover, we do
Yeah.
know what are the 2 or 3 different target audiences coming up, and we
Yeah.
just try to satisfy them as best as possible.
Yeah.
Especially if you can loop in, specific things like workshops or, side classes or anything else for people who want to learn more. That's definitely the best thing to do.
Okay.
And nailing the time for that specific industry that you're targeting is also really important. For real, in my experience, some folks really prefer 20-minute just crash course. Okay, I gathered what you mean, things. Some do like the 1 hour long
Yeah.
talks whenever
Yeah.
speakers are top notch. I'm somewhere in the middle, about 40 minutes or so, but really
Yeah.
different audiences, different topics, just nailing that combo of speakers, sessions related to the audience and time, and
Yeah.
just piling everything up. I think this is it. It's not really unique, isn't it? Like every conference has it, but like that's where most mistakes
Yeah, but
happen.
if you look at it, it felt like most of the conferences. The strange part that we are going to, I believe, we will fix it is if you look at it, every conference has the names, right? They have names that are very popular, right? Or at least they make you buy the ticket,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
However, those names, first, the initial problem would be that these are great people, however, they are not great presenters. And we have seen that, let's be honest,
Yeah, yeah.
mm, just for
Too,
years and
too
years
many
now,
times. Too
too
many times.
many, too many times. This is one of the problems in our case that is, I mean, easy, right? Because the people that we are inviting are not just like the top in the industry, but they're the top in the presentation industry, which makes it a little bit easier. But but then you have the other problem. Even if they're great speakers, right? Most of the times, unfortunately, the presentation itself, meaning the visual part of the presentation, fails, right?
Yeah.
At least what I see in the, like, even in premium events, that is what. Or even if it's not the visual, something will fail. They haven't prepared enough, right? It's just because I'm going to Sofia, so who cares,
Yeah,
right? Or
yeah.
that's so disrespectful, by the way. It is insane. I have seen a lot of, I don't know whether or not you have heard about a Bulgarian event where the lady from Facebook went on stage, right? Very expensive event here in Sofia. Went on stage and said, first thing, saying to the audience, "I'm sorry, I'm not prepared. I decided to read you something." And I was like, "What?
That's absurd.
Brutal." Yeah,
Yeah, I
that's
have
brutal. I just heard it. I was like, okay, enough. And I decided to leave the room that was in Sophie Event Center, and a person from the crowd raises his hand, and I turn my back to see what's going to happen, and says, "Hey, do you really?" And he was kind of screaming inside of the room. "Do you really believe it's respectful to come to one of the most expensive events in a country and not being prepared?" So he screamed that in front of everybody in the room. So
yeah. It's crazy. Yeah.
just imagine the damage that this person can do, and for like he had to do it, right? There should be somebody who had to say something like this. I saw the organizer afterwards. She was mad, like she was going insane, and she was like, "Not, don't tell me anything." I'm like, "I'm not saying anything,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah,
I'm an attendee. I just paid you the same amount that everyone paid you." And she was like, "Next year we will bring you for a moderator." And I'm like, "You don't need moderators."
yeah. You just need to be prepared for your freaking talk because you
I
were
mean,
supposed to be delivering it, right? Yeah.
yeah, I mean, this is just insane. But what we are also going to do, I don't know your opinion on this, but we are also inviting again some of the brightest there. But we are also having the contracts with those guys, and we communicated it very openly that we are also going to approve their sessions first, right? So all of the things that they're going to do, all of the slides that they're going to do, if they need to be changed, we have a full team here that can change them, so that we make sure that 20 out of 20 will be kind of like top of the pop.
Yeah,
So
that's definitely great. To be fair, I'm pretty sure you're going to nail it because that's your specialty. That's what you do for a living. I do think it's the right thing to do, and most conferences don't spend enough time with speakers.
yeah,
We all know that speakers do things last moment as well, so
yeah,
that's also a problem. But I've also been, working with conferences that, for example, asked me to change the entire presentation format like 1 week before the event or so.
okay,
And
yeah,
I like there are similar things, or they say
yeah.
you always need the logo of the event at the bottom whenever I've done like
These are small changes.
yeah, yeah, but like those kind of things are sometimes what I'm saying is if you miscommunicate that process itself, it's also going to backfire. But yeah,
Yeah,
doing that is definitely it's
yeah.
definitely incredible. I actually think it's going to be wonderful if you kind of provide like assets or like an I don't know visual directory of like images so that they're kind of following the same brand guidelines and
It's kind of
whatnot.
consistent.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
So this I think this may be pretty awesome as well.
Yeah. Okay. So you share a lot of things. Obviously, DevriX everyone can find, but you personally share, I think, through many channels, or at least through your channel. I don't know. You will let me know. But you share a lot of business advices. Where can people find those things?
Yeah,
What's
I'm
the best
using
place?
Different channels, but I'd say my website, mariopeshev.com, is the go-to place. I
Do you
do
still blog?
Yeah,
Really?
I do weekly. I do
That's nice.
weekly. And I'm actually spending time like every weekend and so forth throughout the week, just looking into topics I'm worried about. Or like sometimes if I just run for something, I spend, a couple hours writing 2000 word blog post, and then I just assign to my team for images and creatives. But I find this liberating. I find this
Okay.
educating. And to be completely honest, I get tons, well, it's not tons of traffic, but I get lots of traffic from lots of universities. And I see,
Really? Okay.
yes, I get edu domains pointing like clicks from edu domains every single day, sometimes two or three. So again, it's not
That's
like tons of traffic, but what it makes me think is that my resources, the type of stuff that I do, is being used as references at universities, which is really all that matters to me, right? So my blog is definitely the thing. I'm also on Twitter, Mario Peshev, no fearing. Also using LinkedIn extensively. I also publish weekly
yeah.
slides every Tuesday, among other things. My website has a newsletter, but yeah, I would say those three networks are kind of the main places people can really look me up. And yeah, that's again just trying to educate one step at a time, because this is helpful to prospective customers, prospective employees, my own team.
Yeah.
Sometimes just as resources, understanding how I think and understanding kind of paradigms that are important to growth. So
Yeah.
whenever you can solve lots of problems with one specific tool or one specific
Yeah.
activity, I'm all for it.
Yeah. And presentations are sometimes the best tool for that. Yeah. That is absolutely right.
Every Tuesday presentations on LinkedIn. Anyway.
Okay, Mario. What can I say? Like, thank you for being part of this one. Like, I really personally enjoyed it. I really believe that people will find it extremely, extremely useful, because you have like such a unique experience in the tech and then in the entrepreneurship world. Anyway, in the world of entrepreneurship, that's a word that I always find it difficult to kind of pronounce and say properly. Anyhow, thank you again for being here. Thank you for sharing all of those things. Like, I hope that you also kind of enjoyed yourself answering some of those unusual, I believe, for you questions in regards to presentations.
It
But
was
yeah,
wonderful.
yeah,
Thanks.
thank you for yeah,
Thanks a
thanks
lot
for
for
having
having
us.
me. And yeah, as kind of last note, again, just having a personalized podcast on a specific topic is also super wonderful, because, as you said, unusual questions, different perspective, different
Yeah,
breakpoints, something that's incredible. So just keep it niched.
yeah,
Just niching down into this specific thing is going to uncover lots of specific, unique insights from other people. I love it. Following, definitely thumbs up, and thanks again for having me. It was definitely a pleasure.
yeah. Okay, everyone, you heard Mario. That's the thing that you also have to do. I believe that he will, like, I personally follow him from afar, by especially on LinkedIn, if I have to be honest. And if we are talking about niche, I believe that you are sharing, or at least that's my kind of view, that you share a lot about WordPress and kind of developing a WordPress agency. So if somebody wants to go in that world, I haven't personally seen any more complete place or person who shares more about the topic. So leaving you here, everybody, take a look at also, if you are interested in Mario's work, you already know where to find it. If you're interested in our work, it's obviously easy to find it, 356labs.com, or the event that's coming up that's with the very interesting name, I would say, presenttosucceed.com. So I hope this was useful, and see you next time.